We had some folks request some information on using tarot for self-care. That is, of course, a very broad subject, and I have been doing what I can to put my little neurons together on that subject. It's a subject that I was very keen about. Of course, I know that many of us are already feeling a lot during this time, so trying to bring you some information that would be useful and more regenerative, more rejuvenative than exhausting. We'll see how I did. So this class, I was going to call it Calm the Hell Down, but that sounds so stressful. Did Ashley get in? Come on in, Ashley. Everybody in here? Ta-da! Welcome. This class, instead I called it Calm the Heck Down. So this is tarot for self-care in a world on fire. It may be literally or metaphorically on fire, depending where you are right now. For anybody who's just joining us, I am Madame Ansa. I'm the creator of the World Spirit Tarot, right here. And I am your hostess for today's Tarot 2 session on self-care, when the world is one big dumpster fire. If you want to learn more about me or the deck, because you don't already know it, you are welcome to go check it out at theworldspirittarot.com at my snazzy new website. Proceeds from today's classes are going to support Black businesses in my region because Richmond has been seeing a lot of action, as it should, as the capital of the Confederacy during this time of change. So we are going to talk a little bit about spiritual hygiene, if you want to think of it that way. And then we're just going to walk through a couple different spreads. Now, I'm going to let Kelly on into the class. Come on in. Welcome. You're just in time for us to start talking about how to make the cards work for you. I'm going to get on my high horse or my lecture podium for a moment about what I call goop witchcraft. And I apologize if you're a goop fan. If you're not familiar with what that is, it is a rather expensive and ostentatious line of sort of DIY witchy things and alternative spirituality and alternative medicine things that have been made. They've been up-branded very much and made extremely commercial, shall we say. I'm trying not to be too unkind about it. Anyway, it's not my jam is the point. It's like very expensive, you know, jade eggs for your vagina and the world's most expensive candles because you can't just make your own candles. If that's your thing, it's totally fine. What concerns me about this trend is this notion of goop witchcraft is what I call it, which is, you know, when people feel like they only, you know, you can only use a candle if it's been prayed over by, you know, the right kind of monk with the right black belt, and you can only, you know, you can only invoke whoever it is you need to invoke if it's the right time. And it's very much a gatekeeping kind of feeling to me. And as a do-it-yourselfer, I take umbrage with that. I really feel that our history, not just in like European witchcraft, but our history as people on the earth, hominids functioning in a diverse world, that we have always found a way to work with what we had in order to meet our spiritual and physical needs. We are eminently resourceful. So that little diatribe is to say that sometimes in the life, you just want to feel like things are okay. And maybe you feel like you want to buy a pint of ice cream or get a perfect fancy $5 latte that was made by somebody else, you know, or a fancy candle from some witchy vendor online, or a massage from an actual other human being. It's totally fine when self-care needs to look like buying things or an exchange of goods and energy with other people. That's not the issue. However, in this world of some bullshit, overpriced, monetized goop witchcraft and runaway consumer panic, you don't have to buy wellness. That's where I really wanted to go with this class. I'm going to give you some suggestions today for how to use the cards in a way that may nourish you during a difficult time. And, you know, by and large, those suggestions are, it's a matter of thinking about how we take care of ourselves, not buying stuff. You don't have to pay a lot to make a date with yourself, to make an opportunity to be kind to your adrenals, or to be compassionate towards your own sanity. For most of us, we have the leisure of making at least a few minutes a day. Even in our car, as we're sitting at the toll booth, we have the option of carving out a few minutes to try to be present with ourselves. I'm not saying it's easy, but most of us do have that much liberty. In fact, within the limitations of these plague times, you may be unable to outsource a lot of your stuff because you can't get a massage or a haircut or buy a latte or whatever your sort of default habits might have been in pursuit of comfort in the prior times. So now you are your own best and safest option. I'm going to mention that, in my opinion, as a workaholic, Western culture is noticeably predicated on a work-life imbalance, favoring work over leisure, stimulus over calm, scrolling until provoked. I'm feeling something over any kind of meditative practice. We are culturally encouraged to identify as busy or stressed in order to feel like we're doing valid adulting, and to be a martyr at work, to our art, to our families. This notion that it's not okay to ever not be busy all the time. Maybe we had that when I was a kid, but I can say I don't see that a lot in the world now. And again, I myself, am a workaholic from many generations of people who toiled, day in and day out, and did not know how to relax. So if you don't have this problem, good for you. I continuously struggle to reprogram myself as far as the belief that we are only as valuable as we are productive. If we aren't busy or stressed, sometimes we're concerned we're not going to be perceived as trying or working hard enough. If we are chronically busy and stressed in the sort of Instagram social media verse, we may feel that we're failing to have it all. So basically, these lies or these bad habits that some of us may pick up, when we use ourselves that hard, it can look like neglect. It can look like we're neglecting, eating food that's nourishing to us, of being fully present in our bodies, of taking care of our sleep habits and our mental health. The fact I'm telling you this right now while I can barely keep my eyes open because of what we've been going through, it is not lost on me because I have to go put all of these things into practice for myself at this time. I want to propose, before we even touch a tarot card, that you consider treating yourself as well as you would treat someone else that you really cared about, that you really needed, that you really valued. In these crazy times, especially, it's not just the COVID times where we're concerned about health, with the pandemic, but of course, we're going through this gigantic societal flux, about inequality. So between pandemic, inequality, and just the cabin fever with the unknown future, self-care may be hard to rationalize. How can I worry about myself, when we're confronted with so much injustice? How can I worry about myself when, some people have to go to work every day into an environment that's not safe? It doesn't take anything away from other people if you take care of yourself a little bit. As Stephen Covey says, you have to take time to sharpen the saw in order to be effective doing the work. So if you're rejuvenated, if you're calm, if you're hydrated, if you're well rested, that would make you potentially, a better parent, a better caregiver, a better colleague, a better fellow revolutionary, whatever you need to do. You will be able to march further, dance harder, and do more to challenge the patriarchy if you can take care of yourself just a little bit, at least some of the time. So I want to take a moment to read Ray's notes. When I worked as a hospice nurse, I frequently reminded my patients' families of the message you get on airplanes. When the oxygen mask falls down, put on your own first. You have to serve yourself so you can best serve others. Absolutely. Which is why when class is over tonight, I'm going to actually go use the things that I'm telling you and try to make up for some of the sleep and hydration and self-care that I have been lacking during this time. And I hope that you'll do the same. So treat yourself as well as I would like you to treat you. And I will try to do that. That being said, I have a few suggestions for how to set the environment of working with the cards during this time and some spreads to explore. So that being said, take a big breath in if you would. Whatever that is for you. Now, setting a gentle environment to work in may really be helpful during this time. I'm generally pretty DIY, like wipe the crumbs off the table and get on with it. I don't usually bother with a ton of sort of ritualized fuss. But I will say the ritualized fuss can be a great aid to you during these difficult moments. The reason that humans invented ritual, or that hominids, pre-humans, probably had ritual, the reason that our ancestors discovered something about ritual that was worth doing is that you could prepare your mind for the task at hand. You can literally shift the gears so that you can be the person that you need to be. And if you're somebody who can sweep the crumbs off and do the reading, that's great. But if you're already exhausted, or if you need to make the time special, create a gentle environment. Extreme times call for extreme measures. One suggestion is to physically actually clean an aspect of your space before you sit down and do something. It may seem counterintuitive to do more work in order to take care of yourself. I'm not saying you have to, clean your email box and clean every, bit of grout between the shower tiles. But, if you want to sweep the room you're going to read in, just to like get in the mindset of being in your body, and being alert to your environment and not just the things in your head, that is a great ritual practice. Or, maybe you just want to declutter the desk that you're actually going to use. Just find a way to physically engage with the present moment of your space. And if you consciously connect this idea of physically organizing your space with psychically preparing your inner space, you may in fact find it more rejuvenative. So, Gordon White, who is a podcaster who I enjoy very much, he also suggests, sometimes it is great to just when you do that, sweep things out, open the windows and doors, because you are metaphorically as well as literally sort of letting the old shit out and letting some fresh air in. And that can be a great thing for helping to prepare your psychic space for reading. And again, if you're woo-woo, if we want to call it that, you can physically clean your space. You can psychically clean your space. You can tune up your personal defenses. You can test your shields. You can clean your aura, however you choose to think about it. But imagine sort of restoring yourself to your sort of factory settings as much as you can as you come to the task. One of the things that may help in this regard is to appeal to your senses. Again, we are all encouraged very much to live in our heads, and a lot of us right now, if you're not like actively going to work in a hospital or as a trash collector, like some kind of stressful job where you're interfacing with everybody, a lot of people are just scrolling all day long, hilariously, as I'm teaching online telling you these things. But a lot of us are scrolling all day long, just trying to feel something, trying to feel like you're keeping up in current events, trying to vet all of the things. Consider stepping away from some of that for a little bit. You will not fix nor break the internet if you move away from the internet for an hour or even a day if you can. Use the physical senses that you've got in order to prepare yourself for doing the readings that we're going to talk about. Your senses are the window to the transformative power of ritual. It doesn't have to be an expensive consumer exercise. You don't need $1 billion goop candle. We've got this sense of smell. Maybe you like incense. Maybe you like the smell of, some fresh, pine needles from outside. Maybe you have essential oils that you like. I'd encourage you to be mindful of like industrial perfume, because it has a lot of artificial stuff in it, and it may not necessarily get you into sort of a grounded space. Some food smells may help you, if you have this thing and, the smell of cupcakes, cooking, like fresh chocolate chip cookies or whatever, help you to arrive in a sense of hominess. Lean into your, your personal aromatherapy. I love the smell of sheep. I used to be a shepherd, and so I've got a big whole sheepskin that still smells like lanolin, and I can like just get my face in there and smell that sheep smell, and it certainly takes me to a whole other world than my workaday screen staring life. So be creative about what exploring the realm of the senses for your self-care and tarot looks like. Maybe it's the smell of garlic bread. Who knows? Um, maybe it's the smell of like bourbon in a spritzer, you know, something that sort of spreads around a feeling of relaxation, or maybe you've associated with, you know, one of your personal deities or whatever. Now, sight, of course, again, we are so taxed in the sight front right now. A lot of people are struggling with screen fatigue, hence my snazzy new glasses. Uh, so I want to encourage you to move away from artificial lighting for a little bit during this time. Natural or flickering light, like sunlight, is great. Candles, you know, flames, and if you don't have access to, you don't really have the means to have like real fire, you know, fairy lights, like you know, kind of the holiday lights. Those can be great. Just things that feel a little bit. They will tell your deep mind that you are trying to enter a mystic or healing space, potentially. Tiki torches if you're outside, just something that helps to say this is different than the staring at a screen time. Hearing, you know, everybody has the music, of course, is enormously subjective, but you know, the calming sounds of nature, mellowing music, you know, something that will help to drown out the kids hitting each other with Legos downstairs. Whatever it is that you need in order to create some aural peace for yourself. Some people really love white noise, and it helps them get in the zone. And your sense of feeling, your sense of texture. Explore soft textures. Like maybe when you sit down to do your stuff, you're going to take a minute and go put on your comfy clothes, fluffy blanket, or, you know, or maybe you want to lay on your hardwood floor because it's cool on a hot day. Oop, I gotta let somebody else in. La la la. Hi there, Lane. Hope you weren't waiting too long. Hey. So we were just talking about needing to lean into our sort of animal senses in order to move away from the stressors of the modern moment, and leaning into your favorite smells and your favorite sounds and your favorite textures, and cleaning your environment a little bit in order to sort of set a stage for you to approach your tarot from the point of view of cultivating wellness, rather than just being another thing that you have to do and you have to excel and you have to journal about. So leaning into your senses. If you have other senses, sight, smell, hearing, touch, if there's other ways that you feel like you can enrich your environment, by all means, do that. Now, having encouraged you to take a minute to prepare your space just for your sanity, but also for your tarot. Some people really love doing morning pages, like writing. And if you're not a morning person, maybe do them in the evening, maybe do them on your lunch break. They can be an avenue for some people to really get their thoughts out. As a Gemini, I think so many thoughts, like there's not enough time in a day for me to write everything out. But I can say that if you either have limited time or you have unlimited cognitive material that you could dump down into your morning pages, what you can do is sort of be a little bit topical. Maybe you use that time to say, I'm just going to journal a little bit here and get my questions for the tarot elucidated before I sit down with the cards. You know, use that opportunity to be your own client and try to get clear about what you're asking for. I know I have actually been the querent who stood in line at an event excited to talk to the tarot reader because I want to see what other people do, and I'm not good at reading for myself. And I got all the way to the front of the line and sat down, and they said, well, what's your question? And I went, I forgot to even think about it. I just got in line and was like, I am here to get my problems evaluated. So consider not being that person, and, you know, be the querent that you'd like to see in the world and have a plan when you sit down. Some of the questions that you may want to ponder as you are working with this notion of tarot for wellness. You can jot down in some of your prompts. Are you open to learning through this reading any uncomfortable truths about yourself? Are you open to exploring avenues to self-change and betterment? To put it on a positive footing for yourself, are you willing to hear about some of the good that you already do in the world and some of the skills and talents that you bring to your own life and trying to make the world better for other people? What else you might be called to do? So some of those questions that are, that help us to step outside the, what about this guy at work? What about my roommate? Those very sort of typical questions. You can use the opportunity to do some deeper evaluative work. That being said, now you are welcome to play with cards and lay them out. I'm going to share with you 3 different spreads. I encourage you, if you have a deck, lay it down in front of you. I did not set up a whole second table here tonight. This is not the week for that. But by all means, you can lay them out. And then if you want, take a picture of your reading so that you can spend more time with it when we are done. Obviously, we don't have enough time in a night to do 3 whole spreads and really explore them. But I do want you to get your hands into the cards. So for example, why don't you just get your cards right now, if you've got a deck, and just shuffle them around, get them moving, give them some love, and say, this is the tarot for self-care in a world on fire. And we're going to do a short form spread. If you were with me a few weeks ago, we did a 3-card spread that was the body, mind, spirit spread. We're going to basically do that. So you're going to get your cards shuffled up according to your protocol, whatever that is for you. And if you don't have one, fear not, there is no right or wrong way. There is just the habits that you develop that allow you to enter a state of mindful presentness with the cards. I love, once again, to refer to my friend, the Druid Priestess, who just throws the cards in the air and picks the ones off the top. You can be that casual. However, in this case, you can go shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Lay them down, get ready to pull a card. And here's my short form, body, mind, spirit. I'm going to be backwards, aren't they? 1, 2, 3, body, mind, spirit. Now, that being said, you can say, if you want to do a longer form of this 1, 2, 3, you can say, here is where I'm coming from with my body, mind, spirit. Here is where I am going with my body, mind, spirit. So it can become a bigger reading and still be fairly straightforward. And then, of course, I am a big fan of the wild card, the bonus card. Sometimes that card is just a volunteer that jumps out of the deck and just is determined to come along for the ride. Sometimes it's one that you actually pull. If you have questions about this, you are welcome to pop in on the screen or chat with me about it. With all spreads, again, there's no right or wrong way, but there is finding the way that works best for you. Were I pulling this for myself right now, I would be sliding my hand over my deck that is fanned out. I would be feeling for the cards in question, and I would be thinking, okay, I want to do body, mind, spirit, past and future. Like, I know how I feel right now. I feel like I'm going crazy in quarantine with the COVID and the social injustice. What I want to know is how I got here. What I want to know is where I'm going. So I would be sliding my hand over and I would be going, okay, cards, talk to me about my body, state of my body in the past. Feel that card, slide it forward. State of my spirit or mind in the past. State of my spirit in the past. All right. I got some information here. I'm not looking at it yet. Same thing. I would potentially rub my hands together again to get the feeling going. Do the same thing, consciously thinking, the body of the future, the mind of the future, the spirit of the future. And then again, sometimes you just go for that last card, or you might, that 7th card, or you might flip all the cards over and go, ooh, I've got questions, and ask that 7th card to answer for that, if that makes sense. So you would end up with 3 to 7 cards out in front of you, and you're just checking in with your inner landscape. We, of course, know that body, mind, spirit, these are not actual distinctions, right? Our body is not just a car that we drive around and change in for another car. Our consciousness is embedded, literally embedded in our fascia. It's not like we have a personality that just lives up in our brain like a little robot flying around. We really are an integrated creature in a lot of ways, but it is okay to ask the tarot to think metaphorically for you, because of course, likewise, we do not have 4 literal elements anymore of earth, air, water, and fire that we believe that everything is built of. We realize there are also other more, what's the word I'm looking for? Quantifiable units of measurement in the universe, right? And yet, for us, every day with tarot, we find that this notion of, body, mind, spirit, earth, air, fire, and water, these things that metaphorically remain useful for us. So I hope that you have slid these out and you've got your cards. You can flip them over. If you have, I encourage you, again, to take pictures because we're going to keep moving and not linger on this spread. But I do want you to take a picture of your cards so that you can talk to yourself about it later. And in fact, you can ask me about it tomorrow if you need help trying to do some additional translation. And if you need to, you can also take a picture of this so that when you look at your cards later, you can remember what you were doing. So, and I apologize if it's backwards on your screen. It is backwards on my screen. Kind of crazy. So, if you've got clarity on that, that is sort of our short form, which is to say it's not the most complicated. Now we're going to go to two different versions of a longer form, which is to say a bigger spread. The first one we're going to do, I picked up from tarot site called the Labyrinthine Tarot. They've got a self-care and affirmation spread that we picked up. And I like it because it is extremely positive. So much of the work that we're doing right now as a society, as individuals, is constantly questioning ourselves. Am I doing enough to combat the COVID? Am I doing enough to combat the misinformation on the internet? I'm pretty sure someone is still wrong on the internet, even though I tried to fix it. Are we doing enough to deconstruct racism? Are we doing enough to be aware of power structures, etc.? Like, so much of what we're doing turns on ourselves as far as like, am I being responsible enough? Am I trying hard enough? No wonder I'm tired. Not to mention, with the marching and everything, or the showing up for work. So this spread I like because it is very affirmative. Here it is. Once again, 6 cards, and you can either choose to legitimately walk this out with me, so you've got real cards to read later, or you can just move your hands through it for the fun. Here we have the Labyrinthine affirmation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 stations all have designations. Like there's a specific statement or affirmation associated with each one as you pull your card. So again, I would be saying, hey cards, it's me. I'm reading for myself or for so-and-so. I'm here to do kind of an affirmation reading about what is and isn't working well right now. Let's do it. I'm going to shuffle. I'm going to lay my cards out and get ready to slide some cards forward. Number 1, this is how I am amazing during this time. Your second card, this is what I bring to others in the world. Or I'm sorry, the second one is actually, this is how I am accomplished. The third one is what I bring to others. 4 is how I am skilled and talented. 5, you get down here and you get down into sort of your foundational potential insecurities. This is how I doubt myself. And then for 6, as we bring it around, hoping for that sort of Ouroboros, that never-ending circle of confronting ourselves and building ourselves back up, we come around here and say, this is how I can nurture myself during that time. So once again, amazing, accomplished. This is what I bring to others. This is how I doubt myself. I'm sorry, this is how I'm skilled and talented. This is how I doubt myself. This is how I can nurture myself. As always, if you get that, extra crazy, that card that pops out, the volunteer, you can slap it in the middle or you can put it over here on the side. You just go with your gut feeling on that. An interesting thing about this, the nature of this spread, if you are pulling cards right now, you could be getting some crazy, potentially dark, some challenging cards here. It could be like, this is how I am amazing. I got the Death card. This is what I bring to others. I got the 5 of Swords. Like, just because the reading is structured to invite you to see your contribution to the world in the best light. The very bottom, we'll get to that. This part, I've got my hand over it on purpose. just because the nature of the affirmation spread encourages you to look at things in the best possible light. Some of these cards could still be pretty intense, because you could be like, whoa, this is, what do I bring to others? A 5 of Swords. Ooh, does that mean I'm constantly making myself a victim? Does that mean I'm constantly trying to lord it over other people? I mean, coming to grips with that could be really important for you on your journey. But I do like that this particular reading encourages you to look at things in the positive light, because we're doing a lot of self-evaluating. So now you've got this reading. If you have in fact put 6 cards out, take a picture of them. Take a picture of this. Pray that you can read backwards if that's what you're seeing. And I will endeavor to send my notes about these out this week, if that helps as well. Yeah.
I don't have it written down, so you're gonna send notes.
I can send it down, send it out to y'all.
Okay, because I couldn't type and lay down cards at the same time.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. That's the part where if we were in like a 2-hour workshop, I'd be like, great, all of these parts would take longer, right? I will send you an image, or I will send you the list, but I encourage you to take a picture of it if you are pulling cards, so that you can match what's here to what you have. Or you can just, or you don't have to actually physically act it out now, and you can just employ these tactics later. So now what's going to happen is we're going to switch to a different long form reading as our last stroke in this this bit of reading. This is a triage reading. So we've just gone from the affirming. Now we're going to go into the taking it on. This is another sort of longer form reading, and it comes from the Interrobang, who I have spoken great things about in the past. I really like how practical some of their work is. So the triage is a modified version of one of their other spreads that has a swear word in it. It is specifically designed for situations that have require prioritization, hard choices, situations of urgency. It's not a long shambling kind of reading. It's more of a, what do I need to do right now? I'm feeling so overwhelmed. So I thought that might be useful for us. Interestingly, the shape is the same. Ta-da, triage. Because, these are, making tarot spreads is like making constellations. I mean, there's only so many shapes you can make with so many fixed points. They're going to look like wheels. They're going to look like triangles or squares or rows or crosses. There's only so many shapes that you can build with a constellation of cards. So conveniently, I started to write out a whole other one of these and realized I could use the same one, because the triage tarot is the same. However, what these, rather than being affirmations, these speak to something different. That first card, it is acting as your, as your significator, as your avatar. It is the one that says, this is the state of things as they are right now. Card 2, current demands, the things that you need to be doing about the state of things right now. Like maybe you are running your local polling station. Maybe everyone else had to go back to work because it started to open where you are, and suddenly you're taking care of 5 people's kids because it's the only way you can help. Like you've got a lot on your plate. So state of things, current demands. You're not sure what to do. You're feeling overwhelmed. Card 3 is next step. What am I supposed to do for the next step? I need to make a choice. I've got all of these situations sort of, bleeding out in front of me, if you'll forgive the metaphor. What's my next step? Card 4, in this case, speaks to what you can let go of for now, because odds are, in a truly urgent triage type situation, you cannot do all of the things. You certainly cannot do all of them at once. I feel silly, honestly, like even describing this, knowing that Ray is here in our feed, of course, because she's literally worked as a hospice nurse and is dealing with these kind of things in real life all the time, as to say, not metaphorically. So we get to that 4 is, what can you let go of for now? What are the things you can sort of forgive yourself, or give yourself permission to recognize you will not get to? 5 is the self-care and forgiveness. So this is what you can let go of. This is what you need to focus on in order to use the tarot as an opportunity to exhibit compassion for yourself or others. And then number 6, it's the big picture beyond your immediate dumpster fire. So we started over here with the state of things that you're dealing with, circle all the way through, like what you can do, what you have to do about it, what you can do about it, what you can't do about it, what you need to do for yourself, and coming back around to that notion of, what is the big picture that you are moving towards and contributing to. So there's the shape for both our labyrinthine affirmation and our triage tarot. Again, apologies if it's backwards for you. I'm also going to hold up the body, mind, spirit chart just in case you need to take little pictures. Boop, boop, boop. If you have questions, I invite you to chime in with them at this time. And if you want to pop on the screen to do that, that's totally fine. I'm going back through my notes to see if there's anything I missed. Again, I will share these with you. One of the challenges of this notion of tarot for self-care, my experience with tarot is that it always gives you homework. It's never just a diagnostic tool that says, oh, this is how you are, this is what it's like. My experience with tarot is that tarot's kind of it is the friend who's not afraid to tell you what they really think, if you're willing to hear it, or if you're able to read it. And sometimes we can get really deep into using the tarot as an opportunity to pick ourselves apart. And so I would say when you're going into it, you're not always going to get what you want from the cards, because sometimes they tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. But I would say it's worth going into the cards and saying, there's a lot going on right now. I can only take so much. I'd like to ask the cards to keep it practical, or keep it, give me stuff that I can actually do and respond to. Why does that work? Is this a structure that is entirely in our heads? Is magical thinking useful? That all these questions are the scope of another class. But I would say that your relationship with tarot is probably predicated on the idea that we change the observable universe by interacting with it and working with the cards. We are trying to provide best outcome for whoever we're reading for, including ourselves. This is why when I do a 3-card reading at a corporate gig for the bank, part of my subtext with the cards, I'm like, hey, cards, let's keep it light, okay? Like, I want to give them real practical information, but I don't want anyone to have a existential meltdown at the Christmas party. Like, I'm asking the cards to keep it in that realm. And I would say that 95% of the time, the cards are able to do that, and still have people have a rewarding experience. You get to use the same tool on yourself. So maybe when you go into your this affirmation cycle, you can be like, help me interpret the information you're about to give me in the most positive way. So I feel like I'm, that it's more like taking a hot tub in information rather than, being scourged by facts about myself. Whereas, this triage one is very like, I'm not here for the soft serve. I am here to get things done fast, hard, and facty. So also, having started this talking about using a gentle environment to help establish your self-care, I would encourage you to, when you wrap it up, don't just go, oh man, I did my triage, and just throw everything in the box and move on. It would be good for your mental health if as you hold that sort of gratitude for the information the cards are giving you, as you sort of dissemble your environment if you need to, if you need to set the table again for the dinner for the kids, or, whatever sort of changes you need to make in your environment that are letting it go from sort of gentle mystic space to regular space. Lane's excellent question with the other two, affirmation and triage. Do you see a place for the extra bonus card? I always do. Partly that is because so often you will find, especially, with a new deck or a stiff deck or a deck, that's big for your hands, you will often get that card that pops out. So if the card hasn't already made itself known, Like I like to have a place for it to step into the reading. It's like always having an extra place at the table, you know, for when somebody brings a friend or, you know, if the Prophet Elijah shows up or whatever. So I like to know that I can add them, for sure. As far as what those cards mean, when I get a volunteer or a bonus card or a wild card, if I know it's coming, I'm usually saying, and this is the card that gives me the information I didn't know to ask for. In fact, I was dealing with some very deep dig, hard work, interpersonal work today with somebody. And my last question for them was, what is the question I'm not thinking to ask you? Like, I don't know what else I need to ask you, but I'm certain there's more information I need. So, hey, card, what else do I need to know? So that is that like vulnerability interrogative card. If it's not that, and you know, then sometimes instead it can be either a synopsis, like, okay, I've just got 6 cards here. So, you know, what does this all mean? What is my takeaway? That can be that wild card or that bonus card, you know, sort of the, like the card that offers the synopsis, the big picture. Alternately, because when I read for myself, I typically put a few cards out, read them, and then go, huh, get it. I don't really understand that card, or ooh, these 2 are clearly about, you know, my issues with my parents or whatever. Then I will build the next set of cards on those, right? So I'm saying, tell me more about this card I don't know anything about, or let's elaborate on this notion of how we can use cards to sort out our issues in our families or whatever it is. So for me, that bonus card can also be that, like, it can be the one that pops up and you go, "Ooh, why did I get the 5 of Pentacles in this reading? Hey, card, do you know why I got the 5 of Pentacles in this reading?" So I always invite more cards. Caveat, if I'm like if I'm doing like a corporate party or something where there's a line, I do not. I try to keep it short, and I go, you know, like if there's 100 people, everybody gets 1 card. If that's what I have to do, if I've got 2 hours and 100 people in line, you know, everybody gets 1 card and a big smile. And you try hard to make sure that they get the best possible information out of it. But in general, if I'm sitting and I'm really in the zone with somebody and we're spending half an hour or an hour or more, then I always leave room for there to be that extra card that pops out or falls out. Or maybe when they're trying to pick cards, they just can't, they pull 1, but 2 come with it. And, you know, instead of throwing one of them back, you just find a way to wedge them in there. When I was a little kid, I have a missing tooth right there. I had 2 teeth there. There were 2. And then they got loose at the same time. They fell out. Only 1 tooth grew back. It was a Siamese tooth. It was 2 teeth with 1 root. And so sometimes the cards are like that. You know, they slide out and they're determined to be, you know, partnered. And instead of breaking them up, you just sort of recognize that they're trying to both speak to one subject, if that makes sense. All right, we've got about 4 more minutes before I turn into a pumpkin. So if anybody has any other questions, let me know. You are welcome to pop into the screen if you want to in order to do that. If you want help over the weekend actually doing some of these readings, you're welcome to reach out to me. And as you know, as long as the world's not dynamically on fire, I'm always happy to try to make time with you to try to help you translate the information from class. And when I do send out this link for this video, I will also be sure to add my notes as cogent as I possibly can. I like doing a card a day where I cycle through the deck and dedicate thought to 1 card a day. Can you talk about cards that are good for self-care to meditate on or align energies with this at this time? Heck yeah, great question. Thank you. The Priestess, the Empress, etc. So the question there is, you know, sometimes, like in the first class, I said, you know, pull out a card a day to meditate on while you brush your teeth, you know, just to get to know your friends in the deck, get to know the people in your building, as it were. But when it comes to the applied, if you're going to particular cards looking for replenishment or healing, obviously some cards are better suited to that than others. The Star is an excellent example. That is a card that very much is a card of healing. I would say that 4 of Swords that came up earlier in the previous class, that one is also a card very much of healing. The priestess is totally the zone that I have been in lately, as far as just sort of fortifying my inner walls as we're all moving through this time. She has been a great resource to me. The Empress is really there for you in her earth motherliness. You know, she's very much about like, eat the tiramisu, have the avocado, you should sleep in, and so forth. As far as that goes, I would almost say you could pull out your deck, not just the majors, all the cards, look through them and like pick out, you know, maybe 10 cards that make you feel good, make you feel rested, make you feel seen, make you feel cozy and familiar. Pick out some cards that really speak to you and use those as your home base for any kind of guided meditation. Like maybe you keep them on the top of the deck, and you know, when you do that daily meditation while brushing your teeth or whatever, you just slide through them and go, who wants to be with me today? You know, is this a, you know, some days the reality is like you need to meditate on the tower because that's the shit we're in. And you know enough to be grateful for the truth. But in general, that's not where we're running when we're looking for, you know, for comfort. Let's say you might be looking for facts, but not comfort. So I would say, you know, find the cards that speak to you. It's like picking out, you know, puppies in the litter. All 78 puppies are awesome, you know, but you're not going to take all 78 to your meditation session. So pick the ones that speak to you. All right. Any other questions before we close for the night? I really appreciate these excellent questions. They really help me improve my own, improve the material that I bring to you. So I'll be better prepared every time. All right. Anybody else? Everybody's in. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody so much. Oh, thank you, April. I really appreciate everybody showing up during this crazy time, and I hope that it is useful. I know there was some folks asking about the notion of like tarot for social justice and tarot for social action and that sort of thing. And I've been ruminating on that and how to work with that concept in a way that is productive. I'll let you know if I get there. I'm sure we won't stop needing those tools. Yeah, I want to thank y'all so much. I will get you the videos of both classes and hopefully in the next few days, along with notes. And again, I want to thank you all for showing up in this busy time. The money that we made in class tonight, I will be using to support Black businesses impacted during this time. So thank you all so much, and blessed be.